Hello and welcome to another episode of the Conversion of Granny Grumman. In this episode, we're going to be replacing the roof vents as well as sealing the van. To start off, we're going to remove these old roof vents that are literally falling apart because the plastic is so old and brittle. Once the vent is removed, we'll use a wire wheel on a drill to remove any of the adhesive left over. With the old roof vents out of the way, we can now test fit the new ones. On my first van build, I went with this exact same passive MAXXAIR vent that doesn't have a fan built into it. Once I build the electrical system, I'll retrofit a fan onto it. The aluminum roof on Granny Grumman is fairly thin, so I decided to get this aluminum and create my own brackets to help reinforce it. Whenever I'm drilling into metal, I always like to use a center punch, just so that my drill bit won't walk around. Don't forget to measure twice and cut once.
Oh wow, I'm stupid. Uh-oh. What an idiot.
After correcting my mistake, I attached the bracket I created and then continued drilling holes from the top. To firmly and securely hold down the roof vents, I'm using 1/4 20 hardware. And with the first bracket done, all that's left is to do the rest. Before sealing the new roof vents, I'll prep the roof for paint. As any good painter will tell you, prep is absolutely key when it comes to a good paint job that not only looks good, but adheres properly to the material that you're painting to. Using a drill and a steel wire wheel, I'll rough up the surface of the roof so that the paint has something to grab to. Using a flathead screwdriver, I'll remove all the leftover adhesive that's dried and rotted out. With most of the prep out of the way for the roof paint, I can now remove the roof vents and begin sealing them. Before applying any of the sealer, I want to make sure that the surface that it's going to be sealing to is absolutely pristine. Using a combination of steel wire wheels and brake cleaner ensures there is no contaminants. I'll apply butyl tape around the outside edge of the vent, making sure that there's no gaps. After cleaning the surface one more time for good measure, I'll add a bead of silicone around the inside of the vent and then press it into place. When it comes to sealing things, I like redundancy, so I add a little bit of silicone on the backside just in case. Even though the lock washers will hold the nuts in place, the silicone should also help glue them in place as well. With all the hardware installed, I'll scrape away any excess butyl tape and then run a bead around the edge and then put a little on each of the bolt heads. With everything installed and sealed, I'll temporarily install the bottom half of the vent. Granny Grumman is going to be a home not only for me, but also for my wife Leticia, who I just married. She's a hard worker and always happy to help, as well as motivate. After moving Granny Grumman into the garage, it's time for the final prep and paint. Using acetone, a steel wire brush, and fresh clean rags, I'll begin removing the final bits of contaminant before laying down the paint. And with the roof finally clean and ready to go, I can begin painting. I went with Henry Tropi-cool for 2 reasons. 1, it's silicone and will seal the van, and 2, it's white, so it should reflect the sun and help with hot temperatures during the summer. I applied multiple coats, one coat front to back with the roller, one coat side to side with the roller, and then used the hand brush for fine details. After letting the roof paint cure for a week, I moved on to patching all the holes left by the previous owners. Using brand new hardware that I got from the hardware store, as well as silicone sealer, I'll make sure that every single hole is plugged up. To seal up some of the bigger holes, I'll use some sheet aluminum as well as aluminum rivets. By pulling the van back into the garage, turning off all the lights, and putting a flashlight underneath, I can use blue tape to mark where all the holes are. Most of the holes are the same size as the aluminum rivets, so using a steel wire wheel, brake cleaner, a little paper towel, and then silicone, I can apply the rivets and seal all the holes. Patching the floor was an absolute pain. There was over 100 holes that I had to plug. Some appeared to be added by the factory and some by previous owners. Either way, I'm glad that it's done. And after shutting off the lights, it looks like there's no more holes. After letting all the sealant and paint dry, I emulated the absolute worst conditions the van would ever see by absolutely dousing it with a garden hose. There were only a few small little leaks, so I patched them up and retested and everything was good. So with the old vents removed, the new vents installed, the roof properly painted and sealed, and everything tested to be watertight, Granny Grumman is now a blank canvas, ready for Leticia and me to convert into our tiny home.